Step 1 of 4 of how to build a habitual routine in order to change your life for the better through diet, through training, through anything you want to do. Strength of mind. And step 1 is just understanding basically how the mind works. So it's not just about psychology, it's about automatic processes in the brain. There's an area of the brain called the basal ganglia, and essentially this is the fundamental area that builds up habitual routine. It's like an automatic processing system, like a computer. It doesn't know the difference between good and bad routines or good and bad habits. It just knows habits because it's developed them over time. Now, to put in examples, it's like when you brush your teeth at night, it's not necessarily a good or bad routine according to your brain. Of course, we know it's good for cleaning your teeth, but you don't necessarily enjoy doing it. You just do it because it's something you know that you have to do, because it's been taught from a young age. And it's much easier to teach things from a young age than it is as you get older. So the older you get, the harder it is to form a new habit, a new routine. So before we can get a new habit, we need to understand old habits and why we developed them, and what it is, what's the root cause of why it's happened over a period of time. So I'll give you an instance of what we would call a bad habit: drinking alcohol or eating what we would call bad foods. Now, I've gone over this many times. There are no such necessarily thing as bad foods. There are just foods that are less nutritionally dense and perhaps don't provide you with good nutrition that your body needs in order to process throughout the day. But it's okay to enjoy a treat. So how do we get into a treat system? Well, Monday to Friday, if you're a Monday to Friday worker, you don't necessarily eat anything bad at all. It's only generally the weekends, Friday or Saturday night, particularly. You want to go out for a nice meal, you want to enjoy food, you like your Chinese or your burgers or, plenty of alcohol. But why is it only Friday and Saturday night? Why is it that we don't want to necessarily do it in the week? Well, it's because formed routines have happened. And we haven't necessarily got into these routines through anything bad particularly, it's just developed over a period of time. So what can we do in order to help that? Well, first and foremost, it's understanding why we do the things we do. So why do we drink on a Friday and Saturday night? Why do we eat food on a Friday and Saturday night? Most of the time, it's because it's a reward system from the stresses of work, or because you've accomplished something and you feel like you need to celebrate that. And through social parameters, we've come to an understanding that eating out and drinking alcohol is something that we do. So therefore, we celebrate it through that cause. Now, forming a new routine, a new habit can actually be quite difficult, especially when you don't understand the old one. So first and foremost, I'm going to ask you the question, and I want you to ask yourself honestly, why do you do it? Is it because of a relationship issue? Is it because, like I say, you're celebrating? Is it stresses from work? Is it stresses from something else? What is the trigger for that routine? So that's the first step in order to succeed in how to become better and form new habits. Now, most people talk about habits all the time and forming new habits, but first and foremost, in order to form new habits, you have to understand your old ones. Step 2 is being aware. So number 2, being aware of what your bad habits are. So in the first one, you have to figure out the specific cue or trigger. Is it an emotional habit through bad relationships, something that happened when you were younger? Or is it simple a social habit where you go and see Brenda for a coffee on a Friday and you always have cake? So understanding the parameters of what the trigger is next, the cue. So how do you stop that from happening? So essentially step 2 is just being aware of the cues, and when you're aware of the cues, you know if it's a social or an emotional parameter, you can at least understand of how to break it, because you know and you're aware of it and you can make a conscious choice. And when I say a conscious choice, a social parameter of making a conscious choice is, let's say you meet Brenda at the coffee shop, at Starbucks, and you always have cake. Change it, go to a Costa or whichever independent coffee store. Just change the habit of just having a coffee at the new place. Now, the trigger is, it's the social parameter of always going out on Friday, midday at lunch, or wherever you go to see that friend, Brenda, with the cake. So all you have to do is simply change the place, and automatically it changes the habit. The brain has broken the habit, it's broken the routine, and it's already built in a pre-existing habit. So you're still having coffee, you're still seeing your friend in the social parameter, you're not having to lose anything, but now you're able to process in a way that you can form better ones. A brief one over emotional cues. It's a bit more difficult because emotional cues trigger an emotional response. Being more aware of your emotions and understanding them is a better way of understanding. So understand your emotional cues. I can't give a direct example for these because there's so many different variations. Some have come from serious trauma from the past, and some may be just emotional cues from a bad relationship, or so on and so forth. If it's something really bad, I'd recommend seeing, your local psychologist, psychiatrist, whatever it is, or just having a counselor in general, because this may be something that might be triggering you to gain a lot of weight or not get into a routine that's something that you feel is a better parameter. Step 3 of 4 in order to build good habits for life. So if it's an emotional cue, it's a little bit different because now it's not like a particular place you go into that's triggering it. It's an emotional response to your child not agreeing with you on something, your partner not agreeing with you on something, maybe it's something you've been insecure about from a young age and someone keeps pointing it out to you about being overweight or something like that. So automatically from that emotional cue, you go and eat something. Now being aware of it is great, but one of the tricks you can do is every time you're aware of your emotional cue, tick it off once for one each day: Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Now you'll notice on Monday you might tick it off 15 times or less, you might tick it off 14 times or less on Tuesday, and by the end of the week you'll probably have a less emotional cues because you're aware of your emotional cues and you're aware of your social cues as well. So that's one way of changing it. But step 3 is understanding. And what do I mean by understanding? It's understanding that even though you're aware of the emotional cues, even though you're aware of the social parameters of what sets you up for the bad habits, knowing that you've got to not be harsh on yourself and you're still going to make mistakes, because habits take a while to develop and you're going to make mistakes because the part of your brain, the basal ganglia part of your brain, which it forms both good and bad habits. And because it's a computer system, it's like memory, it never goes away. So regardless of having the new good habit coming into play, the bad habit always remains dormant within the brain, and it only takes a certain one or two things for it to come back out. So even though you're doing your best, it's taking it easy on yourself and understanding oneself more to take it easy on yourself. Step 4, we're here. Final phase of how to build good habits for life. Now, what do you have to do in order to build a good habit for life? Well, in step 4, it's consistency. Consistency is key. It takes 90 days, according to top neuroscientists, to form a new habit. You'll still have your bad habits in place until then. So understanding yourself and taking it easy on yourself is the perfect way to build a new good habit for life. As long as you're consistent for around 90 days, it will go into the basal ganglia part of the brain, automatic processing system, and it'll be automatic like brushing your teeth. Now you're set up for life on that new good habit. But be aware that bad habit is always there and always wanting to creep back up. So as long as you keep up the new habit and you've been doing it for 3+ months, you will definitely have that habit for life. And next time you stop doing something that you perhaps, the new habit that you may enjoy, and the new habit is gone, let's say we're in lockdown like we are now, if you've lost that habit because you can no longer do it, like go to the gym, you may have gone and triggered back old habits. Now, the best thing to do is form new habits during this time until things go back to normal. Like I say, it takes 90 days. Hopefully, we'll be back to our old habits before 90 days. But if you're not, what I would like you to do is form new habits now. And be aware that you're going to make mistakes along the way. But as long as you stick more to the good habit, the bad habit will start to get smaller and smaller and smaller. Now, I hope you've enjoyed this series about building new habits from cognitive behavioral therapy. This is all based on several neuroscience books on studies of cognitive behavioral therapy and sleep science. So if you would like to know more about this type of stuff, strength psychology, if you would like to know more about diet, if you would like to know more about motor patterns in improving training in terms of fitness, strength, and sport, then of course this channel is for you, and I'll be doing more videos like this. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed these videos, and I'll see you next time.